All right, shalom. All right, this is your brother Samak with another lesson in transit. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. Double honors to our elders and apostles of Great Millstone who well that taught us his truth. Peace and blessings to the elect. All right, sincere brothers and sisters doing this work in truth and sincere brothers doing this work in truth and sincerity. And see a few sisters is listening and learning. All right, so I wanted to just talk about how we have no continuing city here, right, but we seek one to come. Now, what does that mean? We don't have no continuing city. Well, we don't have a city, we don't have a land, we don't have a country of our own to call our own. A land where we can, that the Most High has given to us, that we can serve Him, follow His laws, and keep our customs, in truth and in sincerity. We don't have that, all right? We're governed by the laws of the land and the customs and cultures of the people, and we have to, pretty much be on Clark Kent mode while we're out in the world. We appear to be one way, but I can't even say we appear to be one way. We pretty much just keep it simple in the world, and we keep it simple in the world, but in reality, we serve the Heavenly Father. Right? So, and what happens with that is you tend to, go into a sort of state of, I don't want to say real depression, but a depressed state. And it is, man. It's depressing because we earnestly desire, right, to be in our right minds, to be in our full measure, right, which is ultimately perfection, the spiritual bodies that the Most High said He was going to give unto us. Because we know when we get those bodies, we're going to be enabled to sin. And when we have that inability to sin, we'll be eternal. And not only will we be eternal, but bro, we'll be obedient. We'll be obedient to our power, bro. And that's what we want. We don't want to go off, man. We don't want to have to feel these emotions and shit, man. Like anxiety and fucking doubt and envy. It happens, man. I don't want to say jealousy, but envy. Because you got people who are living good lives here, man, in Babylon. People got a lot of money. People are able to, live by their own means. People are able to travel and, acquire nice things and, you name it, right? And everyone wants to be able to live life on their own terms, right? Obviously within the law, but everybody wants to be able to, if they want to travel, they travel. If they want to live on a farm, they live on a farm. If they want to live this type of lifestyle, they do that, and man, it's depressing, man, because you go to work, you pay your bills, you make a chump change, and it's a repetitive cycle. It's never ending, man, and you grow depressed to that, man, especially when you see even if your lifestyle you want to live is very simple. I could just kind of attest to the kind of lifestyle I would be happy with is owning a bunch of land, maybe near like a creek or something, and my land and my house essentially is what I do on a daily basis. Have hobbies and interests and things that you can do on a daily basis that you can put most of your time into, and not have to spend a third, if not a half of your day, because some people work 12-hour shifts. I work 12-hour shifts, bro, 4 or 5 days a week. It's fucking hell, man. But that's half the day. It's half the day. And guess what? Out of that 24 hours in a day, you spend half of that working, and then you want to try to get at least 8 hours of sleep, or you want to try to get 6 to 8 hours of sleep. So that only leaves you with what? 4 to 6 hours to yourself. But out of that 4 to 6 hours, it's really not 4 to 6. Let's just say 5 hours to round off. You're not really getting 5 hours, because maybe about an hour to an hour and a half of that is dedicated towards commuting, getting ready for work, and then decompressing when you get off of work. Because you got to decompress when you get off work. You got to pull in your driveway, park up, sit for a second. You gotta go in the house, you gotta take your clothes, your work clothes off. Some people shower as soon as they get into the crib. You know, then you gotta deal with all that. You're talking about maybe 3 to 4 hours a day to yourself, man. And then you're subjugated to just, what, 2 days off. Some people 1. And the problem with that is you're trying to cram a week's worth of tasks and priorities and desires into 2 days, to the point where it gets ahead of you, it gets behind you, man. So it's fucking hell, bro, here in Babylon, bro. It's hell. All right, scripture said we put money into bags with holes. All right, we're subject unto payments. All right, we never get ahead here, man. Even if you're making decent money, man, you're never making enough money to where you're good, because in America, Babylon, all right, you're subject unto payments. No matter how much money you make, you're subject unto payments. You know what they say, more money, more problems, bro, right? Well, because it's only natural, man. Let's just be real. People are people, all right? If you amass millions of dollars, hundreds or tens of millions of dollars, it's only natural that something's gonna lean you to living as if you had that money. You may not be overindulged and, you know, buying $500,000 cars and, you know, just splurging, but you're gonna make sure you live in a nice crib. You're gonna make sure you do things right according to your measure. But obviously, the more money, you know, you're talking hundreds of millions, you can pretty much just, as long as you live responsibly, bro, you can pretty much never have to work a day in your life, man. And you can live your life. You can throw some, you know, whatever. I don't gotta get into that, but you can pretty much live your life on your own terms. But who's really getting that money? Most people are not getting that money, that kind of money. And in order to get that kind of money, in most cases, you have to do some ill shit. You gotta rob, steal. You know, obviously it may not be criminally, but you know, you're pretty much start a business and you charge and you're making millions of dollars, but then you're paying your laborers and workers pennies, bro. All so that you can amass hundreds of millions of dollars. It's crazy, bro. Knowing that in an economy where people can barely survive on $20 an hour, you're paying your workers, your field workers, $15 an hour, $16 an hour. Just so you can, at the end of the year, you can amass 100 million. You know? That's the kind of shit that you would have to do when you're trying to make hundreds of millions of dollars, bro. But even if your brother is truth and you making decent money, you making 100, 120, 150, you'll be a lot more comfortable than brothers that are making significantly less than you. But at the end of the day, you're still burdened by the stresses of Babylon and knowing that you got bills to pay, bro. And that money that's not a lot of money, bro. And out of that 150, you know, the government taking 40% damn near, 40%. And you still gotta manage your finances, you still gotta pay your bills. And if you get too far behind, you know, consequences are there. So that's pretty much like the burden of Babylon, bro. Like you're never truly free. You're always a slave. All right, you own property in America. You never really own property in America. You buy a house, you get a mortgage, right? I'm gonna put y'all on this. You buy a mortgage for a house, it's $150,000, right? I worked in this industry for a long time. You buy a house for $150,000. You get a 30-year mortgage. Let's say 3% interest rate, right? Let's just say 3%, which is very low, but we're gonna say 3% for shits and giggles, right? Over the course of the 30 years, and this is what we all documented in your closing disclosure when you get your mortgage. At the end of that 30 years, you'll probably have paid $400,000. 290, you'll probably have paid like $300,000 or something like that. But the house, you bought the house for $150,000. And over the course of 30 years, you've paid $300,000. That's just in the mortgage fees. We're not talking about property taxes. Now this is the fun. You can even buy a house cash. $50K, let's say you find a house, $50,000, you buy it cash. Let's say you got the money, you buy it cash. property taxes are $2,000 a year. Guess what? You got to pay that $2,000 a year. If you don't pay those property taxes, guess what happens? All right, the city or the state, they're gonna take your house, man. Usually it's the city. All right, they're gonna take your property. They're gonna seize your property and they're gonna put it into an auction. Right? They'll give you a time period to get the money up to pay your back due taxes, but if you don't pay those back due taxes, guess what? Somebody else can go to the auction, buy that property by paying off those taxes, and boom, you're cooked, bro. You could work 30 years. You could buy a house and pay it off in 30 years. Spend 30 years paying it off. Finally pay it off. Some shit happen where you get injured or hurt. You can't work. You can't afford to pay your property taxes. They take your house, bro. 30 years down the drain, bro. They tax you to pass down a paid off house to your kids, man. You can pay a house off, die. You gotta pay to die, and then you want to pass your house down through inheritance to your children or your child, and then they got to pay inheritance tax. And the problem with that is a lot of times them inheritance taxes are hefty, bro. I've seen it where the inheritance tax will be hefty, and it'll be like $20K or some shit like that for a house that's paid off, and the kids can't afford to pay the $20,000 to get the house. So guess what you think happens to the house? Goes into auction. It goes into the hands of the state. It's fucking crookery, man. This world, this society is hell, bro. Specifically Babylon, bro, because other parts of the world, they don't have these economical problems like we do, this economical slavery. All right, they're still heathen, but their economy is significantly less oppressive than our economy, man. So, hey, man, look, bro, fuck Babylon, man. Excuse my French, man. This place is done. We don't have no continuing city, man. But we seek one to come. Yahweh Shai is gonna come. He's gonna wage war with the worlds, and he's gonna destroy Babylon, rightfully so, man. And I live, and I pray that I live. I want to say I live to see it, meaning day to day. I hope and I pray to see it, and I live for it, even if I don't physically get to see it. Yahweh forbid. But as long as I can rest assured knowing that Babylon is destroyed, I'll be happy, bro. But I want to live to see the day that Babylon gets destroyed, man. Because this place is wicked, man. And it's depressing and it's oppressive, man. And it's hard to stay motivated in its truth. That's why it says that our fight is a tough fight, man. Because we gotta try to remain optimist. I don't know why I'm just fucking. I'm losing my fucking. I'm losing my head right now. We have to fight to stay optimistic in this world when we're always overburdened by the stresses of this place, bro. It's hell, man. But I just want to kind of do a little spiritual rant there, man. A little willing to edify by this lesson. Until next time, shalom.